The World Health Organization is now urging officials with the Chinese government to release all information that it has about the origins of COVID after new evidence points to a possible new source. A report by researchers in China analyzed samples from a market in Wuhan where the virus is first thought to have been transmitted to humans. It found the source to be something known as, well, this creature, the common raccoon dog. But 3.5 years after the outbreak, just what can we learn from this new information? How does it help us? Infectious disease specialist Dr. Isaac Bogosh is joining us this morning. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Anne-Marie.
I know this is your field of study, so you are looking at this closely, and it fascinates you as much as it does us. Let's start with these samples that were analyzed, taken from the wet market in January of 2020. Why are we just learning now about the raccoon dog as opposed to a bat as the possible source of COVID?
Right. So for starters, I think it's pretty unfortunate that we know that these samples were collected in early 2020, but they're only being made available now. And in fact, they were uploaded to a global public repository for genetic material and then subsequently removed. So there certainly is an issue with transparency. And in fact, the Director General of the World Health Organization has publicly stated that there's an issue with transparency and that we should have been made, we meaning the global community should have been made aware of this data in 2020. I think the other key point here is that this is still a theory. We still don't have an answer. This provides incremental data in terms of understanding what the origin of the virus was. I think most people would agree that, yes, this virus does exist in bats. And the question is, was this studied in a lab and leaked likely accidentally from a lab, or was this from the market and the virus in the bat was transmitted to what's called an intermediate host, which would have been possibly this type of animal, this raccoon dog, and then transmitted to humans, which ultimately caused the massive pandemic that's underway.
Whereas you're right to point out, there's still so many questions, which is why having an answer to an origin would be helpful. We're 3 years after the declaration of the pandemic. More than 750 million cases of COVID have been confirmed worldwide. It's responsible for nearly the deaths of nearly 7 million people. What could this new potential origin tell us about the virus and its evolution over the years? How does it change the story at all for us?
It's important to understand. It absolutely is important to understand where this virus came from. But on the other hand, too, regardless of where it came from, I think it's important to recognize that we can have the natural origin of viruses that have epidemic and pandemic potential. You can have accidental laboratory leaks with viruses that can cause epidemics and pandemics. And of course, we can have purposeful leaks of viruses that can cause epidemics and pandemics. All this to say that we need to be prepared. We need early detection systems globally so that we know that there's an issue well before it becomes a much bigger issue. We need to have support for public health systems all over the planet. We need a response plan that's not just a local Canadian response plan, but a global response plan for this. So we really need to be prepared. And the other thing, too, that brings up, regardless if this ends up from a lab or from the market, we really need to strengthen the biosecurity and biosafety of labs and have the highest standards of procedural of handling viruses. If people are handling viruses of epidemic and pandemic potential, that has to be very tightly controlled to prevent any accidental spillover and subsequent cause of epidemics.
Yeah, the animals being one thing. WHO is also asking for tests to be done on people who worked in the market to see if they had antibodies at that time. Still a lot of questions, but small piece of new information. Thanks so much, Dr. Bogosh.
My pleasure.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.